January 9030. The holiest city on earth. Tens of thousands of pilgrims have gathered for Hajj. They circle the Kaaba under the open sky, voices rising in talbiyah, hands reaching toward the black stone set in the eastern corner of the ancient house. The same stone tradition says was placed by Ibrahim himself. The same stone the Prophet kissed with his own lips. For these pilgrims, this is the moment they have waited a lifetime for. Some have walked for months across deserts to be here. Some have sold everything they own. And not a single one of them knows that right now, moving among them, dressed as fellow worshippers, 600 horsemen are waiting for a signal. Their leader has already lied his way through the gates. He swore an oath of peace to enter Mecca. He promised safety to every man, woman, and child inside the city. And within hours, he will break every word of it. His men will ride their horses directly into Masjid al-Haram. They will draw their swords in the shadow of the Kaaba. They will slaughter pilgrims mid-tawaf, blood soaking into the marble, bodies falling where they pray. They will throw the dead into the well of Zamzam until the sacred water turns red. And then they will do something that no army, no invader, no force in over 1,000 years of history has ever done before or since. They will walk up to the Kaaba, pry the black stone from the wall with iron tools, load it onto a camel, and disappear into the desert. The most sacred relic in Islam, gone. It will not return for 22 years. And when it finally does come back, it will be broken into 7 pieces. This is the story of the greatest theft in Islamic history. And it begins with a man who believed he was preparing the world for the end of time. Abu Tahir al-Janabi was born around 906 in Geneva, a coastal town in what is now southern Iran. His family claimed descent from Persian royalty, from the old Sassanid bloodline. His father, Abu Sa'id, had built the Karmatian state from nothing, turning a small radical Ismaili movement in eastern Arabia into a military power that controlled the region of Bahrain. Not just the island we know today, but the entire eastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, from Kuwait to Oman. Abu Sa'id started as a preacher, he ended as a warlord. And when he was assassinated in 913, power eventually passed to his youngest and most dangerous son. Abu Tahir was barely 17 when he took control. By 923, he had already raided Basra, one of the wealthiest cities in the Abbasid Caliphate. His soldiers looted the city for 17 straight days. They took everything: gold, silver, silk, slaves, and left with a caravan of plunder so enormous it took days to transport back to their capital at Al-Ahsa. The Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad sent armies to stop him. Abu Tahir defeated them all. He raided Kufa. He threatened Baghdad itself. The Abbasids had to flood their own canals and tear down their own bridges just to stop him from reaching the capital. He intercepted Hajj caravans year after year, robbing pilgrims of everything they carried, killing thousands on the roads that were supposed to be sacred and safe. In 924, he destroyed an entire returning Hajj caravan, capturing prominent members of the Abbasid court. In 925, he attacked another caravan so brutally that the next year's Hajj had to be cancelled entirely. The people of Mecca began to panic. Rumors spread that the Karmatians would come for the city itself. But many believed it would never happen. Mecca was sacred. Surely no Muslim, no matter how radical, would attack the house of Allah during the Hajj. They were wrong. Abu Tahir had become convinced that the Mahdi, the prophesied figure who would appear at the end of days, was about to reveal himself. Among the captives his army had taken during their raids into Iraq was a young Persian man from Isfahan named Abul Fadl al-Isfahani. Abu Tahir became convinced this young man was the awaited one, that his arrival signaled the end of the current religious order, the abolition of Sharia, and the beginning of a new age. In this new age, the Kaaba would lose its meaning, Mecca would lose its purpose. The symbols of Islam would be swept away because the inner truth behind all religion was about to be revealed. The attack on Mecca was not just conquest, it was theology turned into violence. Abu Tahir believed he was dismantling a world that was about to end. On the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, the day when the sacred rites of Hajj began, Abu Tahir arrived at Mecca's gates with his army. The local garrison tried to stop him. He invoked his right as a Muslim to enter the holy city. He gave his personal oath that he came in peace, that no one would be harmed. The gates opened. The Karmatians entered Mecca like pilgrims. And then the killing began. They rode their horses into the haram, charging directly into the crowds of worshippers circling the Kaaba. Swords came down on men in ihram, the simple white cloth of pilgrimage, now turning crimson. The Karmatians did not just kill in silence, they mocked. As pilgrims screamed and fell, the attackers recited Quranic verses out loud. The verse from Surah Al-Imran that promises, "Whoever enters the haram shall be safe." They shouted it while their swords cut through the people seeking that very safety. Abu Tahir himself composed poetry as the massacre unfolded. He declared, "I am by God, and by God I am. He creates creation, and I destroy them." The killing went on for days. Not one day, not two. Between 8 and 11 days, the Karmatians returned each morning to continue the slaughter. Bodies piled in the courtyard of the haram. The dead were not buried. They were thrown into the well of Zamzam, the sacred well that Muslims believe was revealed by Allah to Hajar when she and her infant son Ismail were dying of thirst in the desert. The well that had sustained Mecca for millennia. Now it was filled with corpses. Reports from the era say the number of dead reached 30,000 pilgrims. Then came the plundering. The Karmatians stripped the Kaaba of everything. Its gold and silver ornaments, its precious coverings. The doors were ripped from their hinges. The decorations collected over centuries by caliphs and kings taken. Nearly everything inside and on the structure was loaded onto camels. One account claims 50 camels were needed just for the Kaaba's treasures alone. The only thing they left in place was the golden water spout on the roof, the Mizab al-Rahma. And then Abu Tahir gave the order that would echo through 1,100 years of history. He ordered his men to remove the black stone. The Hajar al-Aswad sat in the eastern corner of the Kaaba, held in place in the wall where tradition says Ibrahim and Ismail had placed it when they built the house. The same corner the Prophet Muhammad had kissed. The same stone that every pilgrim for centuries had reached toward during Tawaf. The Karmatians took iron tools and pried it out of the wall. They wrapped it and loaded it onto a camel with the rest of the plunder. Abu Tahir wanted to take it to his capital in Al-Ahsa and install it in his own mosque, the Masjid al-Dirar. His plan was to redirect the Hajj itself, to force the Muslim world to come to him instead of Mecca. He believed that once the Mahdi was publicly revealed, the Kaaba would become irrelevant, and the black stone in Al-Ahsa would become the new center of worship. This was not simply theft. It was an attempt to relocate the spiritual center of Islam. As the Karmatians retreated from Mecca, loaded with plunder and prisoners, they were ambushed by the Banu Hudayl, an Arab tribe from the surrounding mountains. The Hudayl fighters managed to free many of the prisoners and recover some of the stolen goods, but the Karmatians escaped with their most important prize. The black stone disappeared into the deserts of eastern Arabia. The Muslim world erupted. The Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad sent letters of fury and condemnation. The Fatimid Caliph in North Africa, himself an Ismaili but horrified by the Karmatians' actions, wrote to Abu Tahir demanding the immediate return of the stone. Both were ignored. Abu Tahir had what he wanted, but his grand plan began to collapse almost immediately. He publicly revealed Abul Fadl al-Isfahani as the living Mahdi in 931. The young Persian was given absolute authority. He declared the abolition of Islamic law. He changed the direction of prayer from Mecca to fire, a Zoroastrian practice. He ordered the burning of religious texts. And then he began executing people, including members of Abu Tahir's own family. Within 80 days, Abu Tahir's own mother conspired to expose the fraud. She faked her own death and sent a messenger asking the so-called Mahdi to resurrect her. When he could not, the illusion shattered. Abu Tahir's brother killed the false Mahdi. Abu Tahir himself publicly admitted his error, begged forgiveness from his followers, and quietly reinstated Islamic law. The entire messianic project that had justified the sack of Mecca collapsed in humiliation. The Karmatians' reputation was destroyed. Many of their followers abandoned them. But the black stone did not come back. Year after year, the Kaaba stood with an empty space in its eastern corner. Pilgrims still came. Hajj still continued in the years it was possible. Muslims circled the Kaaba and pointed to the empty socket where the stone had been, performing tawaf around the house that had been violated and stripped. Abu Tahir's plan to redirect the Hajj failed completely. No one came to Al-Aqsa to worship. The absence of the stone from the Kaaba did not diminish Mecca. It only deepened the wound. Negotiations dragged on for decades. The Abbasids offered enormous sums. The Karmatians rejected them. Political alliances shifted. The Karmatians, weakened by the Mahdi fiasco, slowly began reintegrating into the broader Muslim political order. A peace treaty was signed in 939, but still the stone did not return. Abu Tahir himself died in 944 at the age of approximately 38 from smallpox. Some historians record that his body was ravaged by disease, that his flesh was consumed by gangrene and worms, that his death was as agonizing as the suffering he had caused. He never saw the stone returned. It was not until 951, a full 22 years after the theft, that the black stone reappeared. And the manner of its return was as strange as the theft itself. It was wrapped in a sack and thrown into the Jami Masjid, the Friday Mosque of Kufa in Iraq. Attached to it was a note. The note read, "By command we took it, and by command we have brought it back." No ceremony, no negotiation completed in public, no formal handover, just a wrapped bundle thrown into a mosque with a cryptic message. The Abbasids had reportedly paid a colossal ransom for its return, though the exact sum was never confirmed. Some historians believe the Fatimids brokered or pressured the deal. The truth remains unclear. What was clear was the damage. When they unwrapped the stone, it was no longer whole. The Hajar al-Aswad, the stone that tradition said was once a single luminous white jewel descended from Jannah, was now broken into 7 pieces. 22 years of handling, transport, and neglect had shattered it. The custodians of the Kaaba in Mecca commissioned goldsmiths to build a silver frame to hold the fragments together. That frame, replaced and renewed over the centuries, still holds the pieces today. If you have ever seen the black stone in photographs or in person during tawaf, you are looking at a stone that was torn from its home, held hostage for over 2 decades, and returned in fragments held together by silver and cement. Every crack in its surface is a scar from the year 930. The Karmatians themselves did not last much longer as a significant power. After Abu Tahir's death, his surviving brothers and nephews led the state into slow decline. They even became, ironically, paid protectors of the very Hajj caravans they had once terrorized. By 975, Karmatian power was broken for good. Their capital at Al-Aqsa faded. Their name became synonymous with sacrilege. The Kaaba was rebuilt, reclothed, restored. The black stone was returned to its corner, its fragments pressed into silver. Hajj resumed its ancient rhythm, the circling, the prayers, the reaching toward the eastern corner. But the empty years left their mark on the collective memory of the Muslim world. For 22 years, the holiest relic in Islam was missing. For 22 years, every tawaf was performed around an absence. And when the stone finally came home, it came home broken, wrapped in cloth, thrown onto a mosque floor with nothing but a single sentence to explain the most brazen theft the faith had ever known. By command we took it. By command we have brought it back. No apology, no explanation, just 7 broken pieces where there had once been one whole stone. And a silence that has lasted over 1,000 years.